and had been at the center for around 2 years, and they couldn't even remember the last time he had smiled. And this little boy was just so excited seeing the monster trucks and seeing the track and seeing everything, and got to spend time with Robert. All these kids did, and he, was taking them around on his truck and speaking with them, and we got to go into the concession stands and after the event, and these kids were just so excited. They could not believe that they could choose what they wanted to drink and eat, that they had a choice to just have a pop or a Gatorade or a water or what kind of food they could eat, let alone a hamburger or a hot dog. These kids, they had tears that it was their choice to what they could eat and just have fun and be kids outside. We just could not believe it. And, of course, Robert does all this to take care of the cost, and it's just these kids have continued to come and be part of different bicycle races that we had, kids that had not even had bicycles. Lots of the teens had brought in extra bicycles and helmets, and one of the local attorneys donated a box of helmets for us. So we could make sure that every kid had a bicycle and a helmet that felt like they were just a normal kid at this event. And we had Halloween trick-or-treating, got to foot race some of the kids, teach some of the kids how to pitch on the track. It's just so humbling to be a part of these kids' lives and be able to speak words of encouragement over them. And these kids, some of them, like Robert had mentioned, they made him cards. Well, that was Father's Day's cards that they brought to him on Father's Day. And these kids just do not have anybody.
Yeah.
And we are doing, even in the off season, for Valentine's, us to be able to take them flowers and candy and just have fun with them again.
Yeah, there's enough expense at a racetrack as it is that the owners cover. And then now you're taking on these kids and bringing them to the track and feeding them and doing things not even during race season. I'm curious, how do these kids get to the races?
Different vans that they bring them in, and they come from different counties.
Okay, so the people that run the foster home have vans and they bring the kids to the track?
Yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, like you said, these kids don't have anything.
Right.
And so being treated to not just one night of racing, but I'm assuming several different nights during the season last year, probably felt like Christmas every weekend. I imagine they looked forward to that. What's that?
It was for them and me.
Yeah, I can hear it in your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love what you're doing. I just, I had never thought about that. Even in the area where I live, I'm sure there's kids that would enjoy doing that and want to do that, and that's something I'm going to pursue a little more. Just you've encouraged me to do that, so. You pay for it, but I suppose if one of our listeners had a heart for foster kids, maybe they were a foster kid themselves at some time or something, why don't you tell us how they could get a hold of you if they would like to, sponsor something or do bike night or do something special for the kids? How would somebody get a hold of you?
Yes, of course, we have our Facebook page, Beckley Motorsports Park. Robert's personal Facebook page is out there. Robert Mooney, mine is out there. Tammy Cantrell Salmon. Any way that they can reach us with one of the three of those ways, we can definitely get them the information to be able to help these kids. These kids, there is so many kids in our area affected, and there is just not enough foster family homes or adopted families out there, and we're trying to get the word out for that also. Over the course of the season, we know that there was different kids that were adopted that were in the foster system, and we hope in some way maybe we're helping bring awareness of that also, that families are not just about being born into a family. Families can be made also with God. And
That's absolutely right. I love that. You're so right. Sometimes the families that are made are even stronger than the ones they're born into. So, yes,
Yeah.
I love that part of what you're doing. So, let's talk a little bit more about your track and what you've got coming up. So, do you have any marketing partners for your racetrack that you would want to mention so they get some airtime?
we actually do not.
Okay.
We actually take care of doing that ourselves. And like I said, this is our second year with the track, and this track. When Robert and I met a little over around 3 years ago, a few months after we met, he took me out there. And at the time, to walk around with him and hear the vision that he had in his heart and play from him for things he wanted to do and build roads and to be able to make things better to get to and move the concession stand and what at that point he even knew was going to be able to help people and kids and families, to help rebuild families. And at that point, and then when it did happen, it's just honestly been a blessing to be standing beside him through all of this.
That's great. So can you tell us a little bit about the track? Like, do you know how big it is, and about how many cars do you have that race and how many different classes? So tell us a little bit about on race night.
Oh, our track, she's a jewel all in herself. There's nothing like jumping in the car and riding around the track, even if it's not a race car, to just feel that track underneath you hugging a curve. There's nothing like it. It's 3/8 mile. And on average, we had between 50 to 70 cars last year. And for the first year, we were very pleased with our
I would think so.
And drivers. The teams that we have that come together, it is honestly at Beckley Motorsports Park as a family every week to come together. And it's just very exciting.
So would a lot of these people that now come to your track, were they people that used to race there and then just either went somewhere else or they weren't racing? Or how did you in the first year get 50 to 75 cars to come to a new track?
It started out the very first race around 30, and Robert himself has been very modest. He's a racer himself. He would be out there racing tape rollers. Racing has been in him his entire life. He's taught his son. It's just that is their family tradition, is racing. And he is just truly a wonderful, godly man. That this is on his heart to help the community, to help kids. And Beckley Motorsports Park, the racetrack in itself, is just a pure jewel. I was speaking with my dad last summer and told him, I said, Dad, it's just hard to describe how excited I get when I'm on the property. He looked at me and he said, I believe you. He said, you don't remember, do you? And I said, what? He was in the military when I was born. And when we came back to here, for our dad and daughter time, he took me to Beckley Motorsports Park when I was between 3 and 5 years old.
Oh, my goodness. And now you're back home.
Yeah. He said you used to just tremble when you would get there. You'd be so excited. And just to hear those
That's
engines
an amazing
roar,
story.
Yes, to hear those engines roar, I honestly feel like a little 3-year-old kid out there.
Yeah. Yeah, it gets in your blood, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. So tell me, I know there's a lot of jobs when you own a track. So what do you enjoy most? What's the one job at the track that you like the most? If they said you only have to do one thing, what would be the thing you would want to do?
Could you hear Robert?
No, I didn't hear him.
I think she likes driving that old tractor, pulling that sheep put, Jeremy.
There you go. So she wants to drive the tractor.
She said, we can drive your race car. I said, your dad said, for me not let you drive that race car, little woman.
Yeah.
He said, well, you don't have to tell him. I said, okay, if you wreck, you tell him.
There you go. Well, you should at least get into the race car at least once, even
That's
if there's
right.
no other cars on the track. I did that. You know,
Yes.
I always threatened my family I was going to drive a race car in the powder puff or something, but I never did. But I kind of like that, you know, speed kind of thing. And so my son had a race car for a while, and so we went to one of the local tracks, and they were going to do some practicing. And so I actually drove the car around the track several times, but at least I can say I drove a race.
Says they're talking, but there's no noise coming out of it.
Joining conference now. This conference is being recorded by the organizer.
This year. You know, and we're wanting to do other stuff with the track, you know, like maybe some kind of concert, you know, some kind of music festivals or something. You know, actual car show for race cars there, you know, looking something like that. Just a, you know, a few things on the pole, you might say there, to kind of put some ponder on. I think our biggest challenge is kind of finish getting it open, getting this Motorsports Hall of the Beckley Motorsports Hall of Fame opened up, get it operational, and you know, really concentrate on the track itself to try to make it one of the best tracks it's been. You know what I'm saying? That this track has just got so much history. You know, it really needs to be, you know, brought back to life. You might say, continue forward on the path we're on.
That sounds great. Now, do you have any women who race at your track?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, like I said, we got one or two gals in Outlaw Streets. They do really good, real competitive, hard racers. We got several in the Enduro class and a couple in the U-Car class. And I think there used to be one or two in the street stocks. We're hoping to see some of them back in the street stocks this year. We've changed the rule package on those. Used to, it was like a 434 cubic inch small block motor. You know, that takes a lot of money to build that kind of motor. And a lot of people who got that kind of money, they can't be competitive, so they quit, you know, a few years ago. The car count had went down tremendously. So we looked at the rule package this winter, changed it early this winter, back in December, to give teams time to buy or build them a car. We brought it back down to 358 cubic inch rule in the street stocks. And 362 or bigger, you got to run a G60 tire automatically. So it kind of evens up the playing field. You still run the big motors, but it brings, you know, the little guys, gives them a more of an opportunity to be competitive with the big motor guy. You know, it's going to be pretty close this year. We see a lot of new things, of course, a lot of people want to come back racing on account of it. That's what it's all about. You know, people have an opportunity to race, have a good time. You know?
Right. So how are you getting the word out? Now, last year was your first year, so, you know, Facebook, as we all know, is the best place to let people know what's happening. But how are you getting the word out? And you started with 30 drivers. You ended up with between 50 and 75. I know the drivers are good about sharing what they're doing, but what are you doing to get, like, fans there? What's your kind of publicity all about? Tell us how you're doing that. Might help somebody at another track.
First of all, you hit the nail on the head. You know, it's having a good, solid track, not cutting the purse, you know, trying to race every race you can possibly race. Even if it says it's going to rain, give it every possible opportunity to race. You know what I mean? Before you cancel it, and not quitting in the middle of the season or quitting early in the year on them. You know, racing as long as you can race. We raced them up into October, and a lot of people appreciated it, you know, because they knew we was going to be there. You know, we didn't let them down. We didn't leave them hanging. You know, we didn't beat them to death with cutting purses and all that stuff. And we knew we was going to have to, you know, fight this thing all year last year to get it back up to speed like it once was. You know, there's been good people running the track in the past. But I think the biggest thing is the track itself has to have a good name, you know. Getting started on time, quitting on time, you know, being honest. Can't lie to people and keep them coming. Being courteous to the fans, you know, trying to make sure the concessions are good food, you know. Just having a good time, talking on the, you know, PA, cutting up, carrying on, you know. It's nice giveaways, you know. We've seen that come about this year. A few people, you know, had things they wanted to be a part of it later in the season, you know. Some motorcycle shops and parts stores and stuff, they kicked in a little bit of stuff. We was able to do a little bit better towards the end of the year, and I think people appreciated it. But most of all, they seen, you know, we brought in clay from Virginia. I've got about a half a dozen trucks, and we went down into Virginia, me and all these guys, and hauled about 150 loads of red clay and brought them in here and capped that track. And gave the drivers a track to race on. They can race, they just needed a track, you know, surf it. And man, they put on the show. I mean, they did it all on themselves, and man, they just bailed around that track and just smooth driving, you know, good looking rides. And they, you know, I think the fans seen it, they loved it. They was telling other fans, and you know, the word of mouth spreads like wildfire, either good or bad. And we tried to do our part to make it good. I like to go down there and put my bailing around through there, but I just ain't had quite the opportunity yet.
Yeah, you're right. You know, Facebook can make you or break you, and that's a shame. But hopefully, if you're using it the best you can, that it spreads. It lets people know what's happening and what events you're having at the track, and I appreciate that. You know, that we try to keep everything good and positive with the racetracks that we have around here. My granddaughter races at Galesburg Speedway, which is Galesburg, Michigan, and it's about 15 minutes from me one way. Kalamazoo Speedway is about 15 minutes the other way. And I like to be positive. I want those tracks to stay open because that is what we do on Friday and Saturday night. You know, we go one direction one night and one direction the next. So Tammy, I want to ask you, if you were going to speak to some women or girls and they were trying to decide if they were going to give racing a try or not, what would you say to them? What do you think, is racing a good sport for a woman to get into, and why?
I think it's an excellent sport for women and girls to get into. As a mother myself, I think it's important that our children are involved in sports. Just so many young girls these days and young women do not have a lot of self-confidence. And that's something, getting them involved in racing helps build, helps encourage them. They're part of a team. Even though they're in that car by themselves, they're never alone. It is very safe. There are so much inspections in cars and stuff to make sure they're safe. There are safety things in place. Do not let fear as a parent stop you from letting your child try. If they have that gift of ability, let them try if that's in your means. It's just excellent as to what it does for their confidence, whether they're a girl or a boy. And there is nothing like the thrill of being on that track and what that's going to do for your child, let alone our daughters, our young women, even my age. You know, to get in there and to be able to bail around, encourage them, support them, help them build their confidence and be part of a team that is actually a family. There is nothing like racing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So I'm sure that you've only been involved in the racetrack now. This is the second year, Tammy. So what do your friends think about that, about you being so involved at a racetrack?
My friends that grew up with me, when I was little, I think they kind of seen something like that because my dad, even though he couldn't afford for me to get into something like that, my dad, before I could even touch the ground on a Yamaha 500, had me in some aspects of where I was doing stuff at home, even if I couldn't do it out on a track somewhere or to where my friends saw me that way. I would have to push that motorcycle over to the porch to get onto it and then take off flying on it. And, I mean, he had me in little cars that God had to be with me at a very young age to keep me safe the way I learned to drive.
Yeah.
That I was flying. So it is, my friends that grew up around me, they were like, oh, yeah, I saw that coming.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Were you a little bit of a daredevil?
I used to be when I was young.
Okay. All right. So now, we all have lives outside of racing. Some people don't think so, and sometimes it doesn't feel like it. But what are some things that you like to do outside of racing?
Yeah, of course, we spend time with family. We go to church. There's lots of different things that we do for downtime. We go fishing and camping. I love to cook. That's something, even at the beginning of the season, before we get trophies in place, Robert was kind of playing on Facebook and said that the winner of that race was going to get brown beans and cornbread. And he looked at me, can you make that happen? I said, yes, I can.
Yeah.
And,
those are the kind of things that keep people watching your page, too, and keep them interested. So that was a good thing.
Yes, and that's something for track to do something different,
Yeah.
And we were serving brown beans and cornbread in our concession stands.
Yeah. Yeah. So what what are some other things that you want to tell me about either working with the foster kids or about your track? I'm going to kind of let you talk. We've got about 15, 16 minutes left. And I want to make sure that you are able to share with our listeners everything that you can or that you want to, so that they want to come and visit Beckley Motorsports. I know I want to come and visit. I have that on my wish list. So tell us some more, whatever else you want to share about your track and maybe some special events you've got coming up this season. So go ahead, Tammy, and share with us.
We have a full schedule already planned. We are actually starting the beginning of April with our test and tune. We have 2 weekends of that, which is very exciting to get everybody out and started back. We, of course, have a full schedule in April. May, we're starting out with our second annual Joe Bennett Memorial Race, which is very near and dear to our heart at Beckley. We have lots of different races. We even have the Great Lakes Super Sprints coming in July for our July 4th Bash. The weekend, we have a Rock and Roll 40, Open Hill race. We have all kinds of races planned. We have our race for the kids. It'll be our second this year that we do for our foster centers. And we have our second annual Veterans Race that we're doing this year. Last year, we were able to have a horse parade for our veterans event. It's exciting to be a part of that. Many things are planned. We have another tailgate trick-or-treating for the kids at the end of this season, and that's when we announce our champions. And, yeah, they get their awards during that event. And we think it's great to where we share our champions with our fans. Our fans get to be a part of that event. And
that's good, because I think a lot of fans probably would enjoy being a part of that banquet. But I think they sometimes think, oh, the banquet is just for the drivers. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the tracks would probably welcome the fans, in some ways, to come to the banquet.
Yeah, so we make it a family event. And, of course, we are a family there at Beckley.
Right. Yeah, that's great. I do want to ask you, and you might have mentioned it, but I might have missed it too. Did you tell me that you sometimes have as many as 50 foster kids at a race?
Yes, yes.
So they bring those kids, and you let them in for free, and you feed 50 kids at the race.
Yes,
Yeah.
and the workers come with them. We
And the
let them
people that bring them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite an undertaking for someone to do in addition to everything else. I just don't know if people understand what a big deal that is. I guess I've thought about you a lot after we talked that day.
Thank you.
You know, I'm all about giving back, and I love what you're doing there, and I'm trying to think of how I can incorporate something about what I'm doing to give back. But I just think it's amazing. Did you just reach out to those foster homes and say, hey, we run a racetrack, we'd like to invite you to bring the kids? Or how did you get them to say, okay, we'll bring them? And how did you make that happen?
That's an interesting question, because my sister, she runs a ticket booth up there at the front gate, and she hollered at me on the radio, and she said, hey, Robert, there's a few kids here. I don't know if they can come in. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, they're from the foster home. And actually, I thought there was about 4 or 5 kids in a car, right? I said, oh, shit, just let them kids in. Don't worry about it. And I looked around the corner from the back track where we do the truck series stuff, and here come 2 big buses. I'm like, holy smoke, what in the world? And them kids got out, and they looked so sad. They didn't, just torn. You could tell they was torn, and nobody loved them, And I said, oh, my gosh, you know what I mean? And
yeah, breaks your heart, doesn't it?
Oh, gosh. I told Tammy on the radio, I said, if you would get up and meet them as they're getting off the bus and invite them over to the concession stand. She did. She called me back on the radio and said, they don't got the $2 a piece, Robert. I said, you tell them keep the $2. Just put the tab on me. Don't say nothing. You know what I mean? I'll pay for it at the end of the race out of my pocket and take care of them little ones. And then they got their snacks and food and stuff. And they come over to Monster Truck Show, and I was announcing and stuff like that. And I don't know. I just had to go up and talk to them. You know what I mean? And, man, I got to up carrying on with them and telling them about, 17 years ago, I was living on my mom's couch. I had nothing. Mm-hmm. I was broken and trying to started raising a son by myself, my own son, and didn't have nothing. And I started out rock bottom, right there at that point of time. And I could relate to these kids really quick, you know what I mean? And started cutting up and carrying on with them and encouraging them, how much they'll do in life, keep their head up, and start joking around with them, just showing them a good time. They started laughing, smiling, giggling, just making fun. And I brought a couple of truck drivers up from North Carolina and had them to meet the kids. That tickled them to death,
Yeah.
And one little girl said, you ain't judging me? I said, what for? If I could you're a person just like me. You put your work boots on the same feet, don't you?
Yeah. They need to hear that. They probably don't get any positive encouragement, really. And, to meet a race car driver, that'd be a big deal to a kid, wouldn't it?
Oh, my God, yeah. And I had this old truck, 40 model $4 jacked up, and they loved that old thing. They just had a good time. You know what I mean? That's what it was all about. And so,
yeah. And I would guess they're counting the days till the races start.
Yes, they are. Yeah. And this year on the calendar, we even have a cakewalk between the kids and the drivers that we're going to incorporate one race night.
Yeah.
Just these kids, they are just special. And we're actually speaking with other foster centers to be able to start inviting more. It's just these kids will change you. And like when they were first at the concession stand, they were like, no, we don't want anything. These kids are just, you would not believe them. Even during the Halloween tailgate, they had went around and trick-or-treated, and there was probably about 200 kids for our first Halloween tailgate last year, which was huge for our first event.
Oh, I guess.
Some of these kids had run around first from the foster center, and then they came back to where I was giving out candy. And they started helping me, and one little boy, he seen another little child that was there with his parents, and that saw that he didn't have anything in his Halloween basket. And this little boy from the foster center just gave him all his candy. And
Oh.
he looked at me, he said, I just wanted to see him smile. And, I mean, these kids just have the biggest hearts. They can't help where they came from and what's happened to them, but every one of these kids have a future. And to be able to speak to them and encourage them and give them hugs, that is just beyond words.
Here's another part of it, you know. If we don't show these kids the kind of care and love that they need, they're going to grow up to be rough people to deal with, I would imagine. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so we just took it upon ourselves to do everything we can do to help them, you know?
Yeah. You know, the thing that you won't know probably, or you might not know for a long time, you know, you see kids who, you know, 10, 15, 20 years later come back and say, the people that let me come and watch the races changed my life. And that's the thing that you don't really need to know, because I know it's going to happen. But
Well, yeah.
that's why you do it, because you're obviously not looking for somebody to give you a pat on the back, because until you and I talked, you know, you didn't call to pat yourself on the back with me. I kind of drug that part out of you. You know, you're both very humble in that you're changing lives through racing, and that's what I love most about your story. Yes, it's a racetrack. A lot of people come there to watch the race. A lot of racers come there to have fun on the weekend.
Yeah.
But the bottom line for me of what you're doing is you're changing lives, and you don't even probably know it, or you may not ever know it, but it's enough that you're doing it. And I admire the two of you so much for what you're doing, and wow, it's a blessing for sure. You know, you went and walked that racetrack when it was full of weeds, and you know, some people may not like what I say, but God had a plan for that racetrack, and it involved the two of you. And I'm just overwhelmed a little bit about what you're doing and the lives you're changing. So maybe why don't you tell us, we'll kind of finish up with this. Why don't you tell us maybe specifically, or what are some things that we could do, our listening people could do to help you? Money, obviously, but what else could they?
Well,
Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. We're kind of speechless for someone to ask what we need for help.
Well, you know, so maybe, and you know, I live in Michigan, you live in West Virginia, but you know, would it be a Walmart gift card so you could go buy bikes and have a bike giveaway? Would it be
wonderful
backpacks, school supplies? You know, what are some things that you want to do for these kids this summer that somebody from Texas or Kalamazoo, Michigan, or California could do to help you?
Well, to be honest about it, you know, we've begged the state to help us. We've talked to the county to help us. You know, we
to the White House.
Yeah, I mean, old lighting on the track, it's just old lighting. The power bills are tremendous. We're hoping to come up with enough financial resources to put up LEDs, get rid of these old lights, you know, to cut the cost, to help be able to preserve what we already have, and to be able to help these kids more, you know. The cost of operating this facility is expensive, the way it's set up in the 70s. And, you know, we just tried to overcome it the best we could with the resources we have. And, you know, some of the businesses around have chipped in to help, you know, what they could. And they've had a rough last 4 or 5 years, you know. The economy's just now to come back in West Virginia.
Yeah.
You know, it's just been a major undertaking, you know, and we've done everything humanly possible. You know, I've had to manage every single penny in this situation to keep it operating and running, of course, for everybody, you know, kids especially, all kids, you know what I mean? And y'all keep y'all Walmart gift certificates, that'd be awesome, you know, just bicycles for his kids. You know, they can't take the bicycles home. I offered to buy them some last summer when we was working good. And the instructor said, Robert, you can't take them home. They have nowhere to ride them.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, my gosh, you know what I mean? And, you know, so these kids look forward to coming to the track to have somewhere to be kids,
Right.
And
Right.
they just meet right into other kids. The elderly people at the track, they'll stop me and say, Robert, is kids here yet?
Yeah.
It's
Well, I tell you what, Tammy, I'm going to ask if you don't mind on your Beckley Motorsports Park Facebook page, if you would put an address that they could mail those to, if they wanted to, or some way that they can get a hold of you other than, through Facebook or whatever. And I would just encourage everybody that's listening. I mean, we all have things that are near and dear to our hearts, but we're talking about some kids here who could really use some help, and it can't all fall on the two of you. And I would just encourage anybody that's listening to help these guys do something to help change a couple kids' lives. I think that means more than any kind of trophy for the racing or points funds, So, I want to thank you guys so much for being my first guest on the radio show. This is a big deal tonight. And I definitely want to stay in touch with both of you, as I'm sure we will. I feel like we have been friends for a long time already, just from our conversations. So
I feel that too. I feel this.
Good.
Thank you.
So I definitely will stay in touch, and I thank you guys again for being on, and I'll be in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. God bless.
You're welcome. So that was Robert and Tammy from Beckley Motorsports Park in West Virginia. Again, they started the racetrack last year. It was a lifelong dream for Robert to own that racetrack, and by golly, he's done it. And now he and Tammy are helping 50 or more foster kids that come to the races, and so I think that's pretty cool. It was a good feel-good story for the first night of our radio show. As I mentioned earlier, our show tonight was brought to you by the International Women's Motorsports Association. If you'd like to know more about that or get involved, just go to our Facebook page and say, how do I get involved? Or go to our website, iwmanation.com. And it's also brought to you by Send Out Cards. Send Out Cards is a greeting card and gifting company that I've been passionate about for a long time. It also changes lives just with a single card. I have a couple racetracks that actually use it and send congratulation cards to their winners every week, along with some brownies. And so if you're a racetrack owner, I'm going to ask you, what do you do to let your drivers and track sponsors know that you appreciate their support? Kalamazoo Speedway, right here in Kalamazoo, Michigan, found that sending out a greeting card and 2 delicious brownies to the feature winners each week improved driver relationships throughout the track. It took a couple years for the track owner to be convinced that it would work, but when he did try it, he came to me and said, Melinda, I can't believe so-and-so, who usually only speaks badly of me, came up and said, hey, thanks for the card and brownies, that was awesome. It changed their relationship. So the track photographer gives the owners of the track the photos. They put it on the front of a card. It's all web-based. It's an amazing system to be able to thank your drivers, thank your crew, thank your fans. If you're a business owner, it's the perfect way to stay in touch with your customers, to let them know that you care. So if you're interested in knowing more about Send Out Cards or how to get involved or how to use it in your business, you can get a hold of me on Facebook on the IWMA page and just say, hey, I heard about Send Out Cards, tell me more. And I would be happy to get with you and tell you more about it. So I want to again thank Richard White for asking us to be on the radio show. I think it's gone well. Hopefully the background noise didn't come through as much, and so I hope you enjoyed the interview with Robert and Tammy. And for tonight, I'll sign off and say, see you next week, Dirty Girls.
All right, that was a broadcast from Michigan, all the way out from Michigan. We're back here in the studio in upstate New York. And also our shows, all of our shows are brought to you by a brand new concept designed by Dirt Track Racing Network and Dirt Track Weekly of Ohio. We have a concept called dirtfund.me. You can log onto that website, dirtfund.me. It is a website, crowdfunding website for micro sponsorships. So you can log on there as a race car driver, track promoter, track photographer, crew members, car owners, and you can start a campaign dedicated to sponsoring your favorite driver. All proceeds go to you personally. There is no cost or sign-up costs or fees or anything of that nature. Just at the end of it, when you cash out, 5% comes back into the company to help build the website and help maintain everything so that you guys get your sponsorships. I just think it's something new we're trying. We're trying to figure out how to handle it and make it all work. But I think it's going to be an excellent program for dirt track racing drivers that are always struggling for sponsorships. They can get on there, share their campaigns. How it works is basically, if you understand how GoFundMe works, it is very similar. However, this is dedicated to dirt track racing only. So it's up there. Check it out, all the how it works. If there's any questions, feel free to contact us at admin@dirtfund.me, and we will answer any questions you may have about how to create a campaign, how to register, or how to sign up. Thank you very much, Melinda, for coming onto the radio. We're glad to have the Dirty Girls joining us, and we're looking forward to next week.